Are you ready to start this party?
I like my women like I like my elevator going down with a weight limit. And then for that one, because I say weight limit, I do a real high beat. So I go, I like my women like I like my elevator going down with the weight limit. You know, it's I believe Sandpaper, and it has like over 17 million views on Instagram.
God.
So it's
what was the Sandpaper like? What did you say for Sand? I didn't hear it, so I'm curious.
Oh, Sandpaper. That one was good because I made my voice lower. You know, so remember before for the coffee you got to go like that. But for coffee or for Sandpaper, I like my women like I like when they said Sandpaper, and I went rubbing up and down on my wood. Rubbing up and down on my wood.
That is excellent. What's up, everybody? This is Simon. On this episode of The Ideal Hour, I have Darren Carter, who is a hilarious comedian. He is known for, I like my women like I like my, and then the audience will say something like coffee.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Coffee, you know, that was a good one. And you can answer those later, but Darren's also been on. Yeah, and Darren's also been on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, Comedy Central Presents. I mean, Darren, thanks for coming on, man. I truly appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, man. And you guys are so professional. Like, I've been on a lot of podcasts, and like, you guys are top tier, man. I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's not me. It's the ladies behind the background. I like my women to be professional. You know, that's really what it is.
I like my women to be professional. Yeah.
You know,
it's great.
It's good. It's good. You know, how did you come up with this concept? Because a friend of mine, what happened was a friend of mine sends me your messages, and I saw your Instagram. And the first reel was, I like my women like I like my coffee. And you said sweet in Italian, and you said psych, black.
Yeah. So you know, I you know, the basic one is coffee. People usually say coffee. And I about 20 years ago, I had like 3 or 4, and I was performing stand-up comedy. I was at the Punchline up in Northern California, and it was like a Sunday, and I remember, which means, you know, I'd already done like 6 shows, and I'm the kind of comic, I break away from my set. I like to do crowd interaction. You know, and I got kind of bored, and I was like, you know what, you guys give me a word, and they would give me a word, and I kind of was like, I like my women like I like my, whenever they yelled out like shoe, I said no strings attached. And at that time, I had there was a DJ in the back, and so I'd go like this, he'd hit play, I'd go back, he'd stop the music, and so I kind of started using music a little bit back then. But then the problem with that is, you know, you got to pick the right song. And I think at that time I was using like 50 Cent In the Club, and then for a while I used It's Getting Hot in Here, and then for a while I used some other popular song. Drop It Like It's Hot, Snoop Dogg. Wow, drop it like it's hot, drop it like it's hot.
Yep.
However, you know, I didn't want to keep, you know, with the, you know, constantly trying to find a hip song. Mm-hmm. Also, some songs that are hip or whatever, the current song, some people are just sick of those songs because that's all the kind of music they listen to. So then you look kind of a little outdated and a little hacky.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it forced you probably to stay on top of your rap music.
Exactly. And to be honest with you, I the older I've gotten, the less I'm into rap music anymore. You know, I mean, I loved it in the 80s, you know, and even in the 90s, and a little, you know, I still, you know, every now and then, but for the most part, for my personal time, I've been discovering, you know, I mean, I'm telling you what I just discovered real quick, and then we'll get back to I like my women. So growing up, this is hilarious because I love I like classic rock, I like country music, I like old country music, and I like there was a song by John Denver called country roads take me home to the place I belong. Do you know that song? Are you familiar?
I've heard of it.
So I just found out that Ray Charles did a cover of it, and it is so good. I mean, that song is like audio Prozac. If you listen to Ray Charles' version of Country Roads,
write that down.
It's so good. John, it's Ray Charles' Country Roads. I mean, there's a part where he's clapping, and then there's another part where the tambourines kick in. It's like this feel-good, fun song. So
I love it. I'm kind of the same. I would bump all the rap songs back in the days, and then you get a little older, and you're like, I'm not trying to kill somebody on my way to get coffee or something. You know what I mean? It's like not a good idea. So you were playing, and you were using hit songs to kind of familiarize the audience, and then you said, "Screw that," and you stuck with it. Was it one type of beat you love to do, or how do you do it now?
No, you know what's funny you asked that. So I've never been asked that before. So yeah, I find that if I I do my own beat, right? Like I go, I like my women like I like mine. They'll yell out like dog, and if they say dog, I'd be like, well trained, begging for a bone. And I do a little scratch.
I love it.
Like that, right? I like my women like I like. And I found this is hilarious. This is kind of a little inside baseball. If I do a high beat, for some reason, it gets like a great reaction. Like if I go, I like my women like I like, because I always start out with like 3 or 4 that I've already written. I say elevator, I go, I like my women like I like my elevator going down. With a weight limit. And then for that one, because I say weight limit, I do a real high beat. So I go, I like my women like I like my elevator going down with the weight limit. It's I don't know why, but it's like it's less offensive if you do like a real quick.
Yeah. Once you throw it in there, I don't find it offensive. I mean, I used to watch Al Bundy all the time, and
exactly. Peg, I'm tired. I need some coffee, Peg. Yeah, Alpha, exactly. And that's another thing. I have found it really does bring people together. It's all types, all political types, men, women, like people that I used to be, like, gosh, I hope nobody gets offended. Then you realize for the most part, nobody, I mean, especially if you do it if I do it good naturedly and they know that, and here's the funny part. A buddy of mine, I did a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he goes, I live in New York City. He goes, I showed my 87-year-old grandma, I like my women, and she was laughing. And he goes, but then again, she goes, that guy, he gets around. He must like his women. But here's the thing: I've been married for 27 years to the same woman. It's like, you know what I mean? It's comedy. I love my wife, but I like my women like I like my encyclopedia, thick, leather bound, barely used.
I love it. And your wife doesn't, I mean, she understands that this is humor, just like the people that are maybe overweight or something. You know what I mean? It's not personal.
It's funny. Sometimes we'll think of them as a family, believe it or not. We will, because my wife goes and she goes, because there's a Southern California, like we've had these fires, and I'm like, and sure enough, someone's going to yell out wildfire, right? Yeah. And I was like, what would I say if they said wildfire? And then, we kind of came up with something. And lo and behold, on Sunday night, I'm doing my show. I'm at the Hollywood Improv, and somebody goes, wildfire. And I said, what did I say again? Easy to spread and quick to put out. Right? Yeah. I mean, you got,
I love it. I love it. I was going to ask, with people now, 5 years ago, comedy was kind of you had to watch what you say. Joe Rogan, everybody talked about it. It's like, hey, we're comedians. We're supposed to laugh. This is a good time to laugh while everybody's bunkered down. Has anyone ever, have you said something and someone gets offended and goes, you're rude, or a feminist jumps out at you? Or
Yeah. It's happened twice, and it was pre-pandemic. Like you said, 5 years. It was about 2019, 2018. In fact, I kind of stopped doing the I like my women because back then, because I was like, I don't know, man, like this isn't, so I kind of, I was like, I don't know. Like I wouldn't do it that often. Right. And then I did have some really feminist liberal women they're like, I love it. And they would actually like every now and then they would like share it. And I was like, oh, thank you. And I go, thank you. And they go, it's funny. And this is back then, right? But I do remember the only time I've had approached was by two different guys, two different shows. And that's what it was. It was guys. And at that time it was young guys, probably like under 22 back then, you know? And I remember I did a show. What they do is sometimes they'll do these shows here, you know, at comedy clubs. They'll have, you know, beginner comedians, and then at the end they'll have like a professional, and you know, and so it was one of those kind of shows both times. And so I think what happened is the beginners were on early on the show, and they would bring their friends, and their friends probably never watched stand-up comedy, and they were just there to support their friend. And then here I come up there, and I'm like, yeah, you know, I like my women. And so I remember this happened twice. They both said the same word. That's what was funny about it. I like my women like I like my, and the guy goes, misogyny.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, rather than giving me an actual subject or something, you know. Yeah.
What did you say? Do you remember?
What did I say? I said something like, I go, you're on timeout. We'll come back to you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Or something like
put him on timeout and a pause. You know,
exactly.
Is it like, how are you, like, once you got a big Instagram following, I would imagine it kind of became easier for you to book shows and really you became more in demand, right?
It's true, man. I thank you for asking that. I think you said this at the top of the show. I've been on the Tonight Show. I did a lot of cable shows. Recently I'm in a movie that just came out. It's called Holy Cash. It's with Danny Trejo, Paul Rodriguez. Oh, yeah. It's all these great actors, you know. And I'm in the beginning of the movie. I'm a correction officer that releases Paul Rodriguez from prison, and you know. But my biggest movie was Be Cool, and I got to do a couple of scenes with John Travolta.
Oh wow!
Be Cool. It's the sequel to Get Shorty, but it's called Be Cool. And anywho, you know, all those like shows, cable shows and stuff, they're good. They help you. People start to get to recognize you. And the older shows, I've had people say, hey, because for a long time, like 7 or 8 different seasons, I was on BET. Believe it or not, there was a show called Comic View, and I also did a sketch show on BET. Okay. And being a white guy, and you stand out, and so there are some people now that are like in their 30s and 40s that are like, I grew up watching you because they saw me back 20 years ago when they were a teenager.
That's so cool.
But so I got to tell you though, that stuff kind of, in a way, it kind of comes and goes, like it's sort of in the past, like those cable shows. But what's great about social media is it's right there on your phone on a daily basis. Or even if somebody shares an old clip, it's like boom, it happened for them. It happened today.
Yeah, it constantly cycles. Now I know why you said I like my women like I like my coffee black, because of the BET times. We're unpeeling this onion, Darren. We're
unpeeling it. Yes. Yeah, because I remember that particular show that you're talking about, that on that video. I was performing, and these ladies, there was a group of ladies, and they kept going, coffee, coffee. But other people were a little bit louder, and they were a little bit closer to the stage. So the people closer to the stage were yelling out car. And you don't want to, I always want to make sure everybody hears because you don't want to look like you made it up. Like, who said rocket ship? Did I hear rocket ship? And then they're going to be like, oh, this guy is full of crap. So at one point, the ladies were kind of like frustrated, so they banded together. Like it wasn't just one woman; it was like it sounded like 3 or 4 people, and they all go coffee. And I knew they were black ladies, right? And I knew they wanted me to say, the standard, right? So that's why I went, oh, coffee. I did the misdirection, Italian and sweet, and then I held it, and I go, psych, black. Yeah, and when I said it with that high voice, it's like it just was like whoa, and it just got this great eruption. And I got to tell you, I made a compilation video with coffee, swim goggles, and I believe sandpaper, and it has like over 17 million views on Instagram.
God. So it's what was the sandpaper like? What did you say for sand? I didn't hear it, so I'm curious.
Oh, sandpaper. That one was good because I made my voice lower. I did so remember before for the coffee, you got to go like that. But for coffee or for sandpaper, I let my women like when they said sandpaper, and I went rubbing up and down on my wood. Rubbing up and down on my wood.
That is excellent. And, you know, let me ask you, does your wife attend these shows? Do you ever have her out there laughing her butt off? Or
she does sometimes, but more importantly, because I found this works out actually better for us. Because, you know, when you're dating, you're like, you take them through every experience, and, you know, and sometimes it's not the best, you know, like, hey, we're at a hotel in Vegas. And then especially in the early days, I remember my gig was at the, first time I played Vegas was at I think it was called the Four Queens, and it was in downtown Las Vegas. It was a really smaller type of casino and an old. My room was in the 90s because I got married in 97, and I remember like the bathroom door would like hit the bed, and it was just like, my wife was like, "This is show business." So I was like, you know what? Like, let me invite you to the better. You know what I mean? I thought it was gonna be great, Vegas, but then you realize, like, yeah, okay. So I take her to the better shows. If there's any comedians or entertainers out there, take your lady to the better shows. Don't take her to just every show. And also, what I found now is I film a lot of my shows, or most of my shows, so I'll just show her the highlights, the clips, like, check this out. You know, I find it's better for everybody. She doesn't have to, sit in the car and, drive through the rain or whatever to go to a show. I can just show her the highlight. If my son says something funny at school or just around, he's 17, he'll say something, and I'll be like, "Oh, that's kind of good for a joke." So I'll if I say it on stage and he gets a good laugh, I'll be like, "Hey, remember that thing you told me?" Then I'll show them that, and so it's kind of like a family. Yeah, family. By the way, he's a musician. I want to give him a shout out. His name is 𝐒𝐤𝐦𝐴 the Bass Boss, and I tag him on all my videos. If you look in the comment section, I go, check out my son, 𝐒𝐤𝐴 the Bass Boss. He plays guitar, bass, piano. He's awesome.
And we're gonna tag him as well when we put it out as we promote it, and that's awesome. So you guys are like an entertainment family. Were you always funny, Darren? Like growing up as a kid, jokes were your thing, or what?
You know, it's funny. I remember making kids. I remember my first big laugh was in first grade, and I was acting like a robot who was out of control. And I was on the playground, and I was just like, and acting like that. And these kids just started laughing, and I remember feeling that feeling of like, wow, this is cool. I'm making all these kids laugh. And then I remember, like, same thing. You kind of growing up, making the kids laugh. And then I remember in junior high, I started hearing people, hey, you should be a comedian. And then I remember in ninth grade, I kept hearing you should be a comedian. And I'm like, well, I'm just, because I was being funny on my own, but I was also at that time repeating Cheech and Chong jokes and Eddie Murphy jokes. And I was like, well, they're not my jokes. I'm just saying, and they're like, but you're funny. And then I remember they had a thing called Career Day, and there's like 40 booths set up, and you go from booth to booth, and like police, a doctor, whatever the different occupations were. And I was like, dang, there's no comedians here. Like, is this an occupation? And the closest I found was radio. There was a radio DJ, and I was like, well, that could be something, And but then I got into speech class, and in speech class we'd write these 10-minute speeches, and I was basically writing stand-up comedy routines, and that was structured, and I would say the same speech over and over to each different, in the competition. And that got me focused on how to get my thoughts on paper and get them organized. And I learned to, first I went regional, then I went to the state, and then I got lucky and got to go to nationals and flew across the country and competed, and it's great. And then I transferred that into stand-up comedy with the weird thing about that transition the first few times was actually holding a microphone. And simple as it sounds, because in the speech class, you're just talking like this. I'm able to use my hands, and then all of a sudden you're like, dang, I only can use one hand because I have to hold it. Yeah, in the beginning, right? And then now I'm just like, I have fun with the mic, and I learned to do all kinds of tricks with it, but just like another tool for comedy. I've learned so many tools with comedy. I mean, with the microphone, little things that I haven't even, this is a podcast first. There used to be, every now and then I'll do a character where I have my eyes blink, and when my eyes are blinking, you hear a heartbeat, you hear the do, 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 do. And that comes from a character I would do talking about growing up in Fresno,
Okay.
California, and I grew up in a Latino neighborhood. And I said they used to call me Rooster. Because I used to have bright red hair, and I walked to school, and they'd go, "Hey, what's up, Rooster? Do my homework." And then I go like this, and I have my eyes blinking, and as I'm blinking my eyes, what I would do is I would take the microphone, and I'm snapping my fingers, and every time it snaps on the microphone, it goes boom, boom. And through amplification, it sounds really cool, like in the room. And I would kind of cover my hand a little bit. I mean, I'm not that worried if anyone sees it, but it was just kind of cool. I've had people go, "How did you do that noise, that ding, ding?" Yeah. And it was just something like that. You know
what? The sound effects that you bring and your own kind of DJing with your you make it up as you go. Is just incredible. I think it adds so much value and volume and amplification. And then you bring it down, as you mentioned earlier. I think that's such a big part of it. And how long did that take to craft? I mean, comedians, I've heard other comedians on podcasts and so forth, and it's a craft that they're constantly perfecting. Obviously, you're not perfect. But how long did it take for you to say, this is going to be a great part of the routine?
I think it took it probably happened natural over the years, but I wasn't aware of it until I'd been doing it for a number of years, where I was like, oh, you have to, because like just in my everyday life, I would do little voices and noises. So for me, that came natural. But I also learned, I guess, by watching musicians, and I learned that musicians, you just can't do you can, and you can do anything in show business. Every rule can be broken, I swear. But however, it works best if you do like a fast song and then a ballad and then a fast song. You know what I mean? You just can't go. It'd be, if it's all fast songs, your ears get numb to it, and it's not as effective.
I agree.
Same thing, right? And that can transfer over to even cursing. I noticed that movie, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles with Steve Martin. I believe they don't really say the F word at all. And then there's this part where he's really frustrated about his rental car, and he goes into the airport and he drops about 30 F-bombs. And it's hilarious because then the lady behind the counter, she says, "Do you have your rental agreement?"
I remember that. What a great movie that is.
Right. And he's like, "No, I do not have my I'll say freaking rental agreement." And she's like, and then she drops, and it's hilarious. But I think if they said it throughout the movie, it wouldn't be as effective. And so one thing I've learned to do with my stand-up comedy, with my style, is voice dynamics and sound effects. Because if I'm just yelling the whole time, it doesn't work. If I'm and in my earlier days, I didn't really know that, and so I would talk way too fast. In fact, I'm probably talking a little too fast for this podcast, I'm noticing, because of the coffee and I'm excited. But
is the coffee black?
Yeah.
That's good.
I got my Rocky mug. Hey,
I love it.
One step at a time, one round, all right? One podcast at a time, all right? But yeah, so that's the thing with the sound effects. I kind of learned to do it, and also to pepper it, to season a story. It's I said,
you just told me that, or you just taught me, and probably the rest of the audience is we're gonna need to incorporate voice dynamics when we yell at our kids for them to listen. I think that's
yeah. You get down, you whisper, maybe they'll lean in a little bit, and then out of nowhere you just jump scare them, and do it now. Yeah.
I'll let you know how that goes after this weekend.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome that I totally agree. I think if you were one direction or one channel or one, pedal to the floor, so to speak, it probably would not work at all. And I look forward to watching you live one day. I think I would laugh my face off. And do you do any shows around San Francisco or any coming up?
I do. I'm in talks right now. I'd like to come back to Sunnyvale. There's a club there called Rooster T. Feathers.
Okay.
I've played San Jose Improv. I did that pretty recently. And also I sometimes do Tommy T's up in Pleasanton.
Okay.
And hopefully there'll be more on the horizon. But yeah, I love going to the Bay. I grew up in Fresno. I live in LA, and it's just an easy, I love going up that way. I have a show coming up in March. It's a theater gig, and it's far. It's in North Carolina, and I was getting the airline tickets last night. I was like, wow, that's a long. I got to, that's one of those things you have to wake up at 4 and get to the airport and fly at 7:30, and then you land later that night. It's like a whole day, like long. I mean, it's literally like on the ocean of the East Coast. So I love going to Phoenix. I love going to San Jose, Vegas, Reno, like anywhere within 2 or 3 hours is like easy.
Yeah, that's when it becomes a job, is when you got to go across country or so, and then it's a full day by the time, and you have to turn it on, right? So it's you're exhausted, but you still got to do it. Let me ask you: are comedians in general, like, do you guys, like in podcasts? I noticed there are some podcasters that are like, "Oh, I'm too good to share a smaller comedian on the podcast." A smaller podcaster, I should say. Like, we don't want to partner up. I don't want to give them attention. In comedy, I feel like you guys are almost like a team. You bring on up and coming comedians and so forth. Do you notice the industry kind of supporting one another, or is it like crabs in a barrel in some cases, trying to pull each other down?
It's funny you say that. I think it's both. I think it really is crabs in a barrel, because you do notice, like, you could notice, it seems like a lot of bigger comedians who have podcasts tend to have like the same, it's basically like the same pool of like 30 people.
Yeah.
Like this guy does this podcast, and then they do a podcast, and the 3 of them come on, and I get it, However, but when it comes to live stand-up comedy, you'll notice like it'll be like one big comedian, and sometimes they'll bring in like people that you never heard of that are, on their way up. And I don't know what any of that is. I guess it depends on the person. I remember hearing this one comedian that was bitter, and he was bitter because he started out with the guy that blew up and was like is like famous. And I asked him about that, and he goes, yeah, he likes to bring on people that are like not as funny as him, so he can go up there and save the show. So I was like, okay, that's interesting.
That's kind of sad.
Yeah. So I was like, and then other comedians are like, no, I like to bring out all bangers so the whole night is good. And I guess it depends on, just like everything else, like the comedian, like a big comedian who's just generous to the bone. And I've never even opened for him, but his name is Russell Peters, and Russell's great because he'll have like seasoned veteran comedians who just like really bring it. He'll give somebody a break who hasn't really seen the country or the world. I mean, he'll bring on a lot of people, and I just, something I observed. I haven't even opened for him. I see that, and I'm like, that's really good.
I don't know Russell personally, but I know first he trains jiu-jitsu. He's a purple belt. I know that. So a lot of comedians, or some, are going into that. And then the other thing is, I remember his stand-up bit with Russians. He did some bit with like tough Russians or something. I laughed.
Oh yeah.
And but that's great that he's that nice. And thanks for sharing that. Seems like in comedy, it's kind of the same thing. You got people that are, a little bit jealous or don't want to have competition come out. But I think it's kind of weird because, comedy, like, I couldn't imagine putting on a main show and having a bunch of duds right before me just to get a pat on the back or something. That's weird.
I mean, it happens. It does happen because they're a little bit, I guess once they get settled in and really know that, which is ridiculous. I was gonna say, once they get settled in, know that it's their fan. I mean, they're fans. They can almost do no wrong. Yeah. So I don't know, man.
I don't get it. I don't get it. That person.
Somebody told me, and somebody told me something years ago, and I just held on to it. Like, I've always liked to share information and not be like that crabs in a barrel. And I remember I talked to this guy randomly. I was in it was one of those days where I was on my way to a gig, and in LA there's a lot of traffic. So I was like, I'm going to go early, and I'm going to, it's a few exits from where I need to be, and I'm just going to post up there, drink some coffee, read some books. And it was one of those days where you ever have those days where you're just like a little bit like, not depressed, but you have the blues, and you're just like, man, what is going on in this world? And you're like, man, I need some inspiration. I need to think positive. And I remember going to like the religious section, and I was like, I need to get like a maybe I need to get a Bible or something I can understand, or something that's positive, some kind of positive, like something. And there was a guy, and I don't know if it was random or he hangs out there, but he was really cool. And he goes, "Hey, what you looking for?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm a youth pastor." And he's like, he goes, and I told him, I go, I want something. I go, first of all, I want it to be easy to comprehend. I want it to, and he goes, "Oh, try that." And then for some reason we started getting like this spiritual talk, about God and stuff. And he goes, and he said a couple things that were in the Bible. I go, "That's what I'm talking about. That's what I like," and then he said this other thing, and he goes, "And by the way," he goes, this is not in the Bible." He goes, "This is just something that he had heard." And he said that when it comes to being like crab in a barrel and all that kind of stuff, he said, he goes, it is better to be a river than it is a reservoir. Mm. And when he said that, like a river, like just information comes, you can pass, you can help people out, as opposed to like, "No, I found this secret and not, And I was like, yeah, I don't want to be like that. And that guy said that to me, and I always remember that. It's better to be a river than a reservoir.
I agree. That's a pretty nice statement, actually, and it makes complete sense. And natural flowing water is better than, the fungus that's going to grow in your reservoir potentially.
Exactly.
That's awesome. All right, so I'm going to give you one just to lighten things up. You mentioned microphone earlier. I like my women like I like my microphone.
Okay, here we go. I gotta get in my beat. When I ask you give me a microphone. I like my women like I like my
microphone.
Easy to turn on. Cover with saliva. What? You got some more? Give me some more. Ready?
Love it. I love my women like I like my Bible.
I like my women like I like my Bible. Thick and waiting for me in my hotel room. I like my women like I like my
car.
An upgrade every 3 years. And horny. Last one. Or here's what I like to do this in the show, because it kind of sounds like music. I go like this. I go 3 more, and then we gotta go. And I just kind of pause, and then I hit him with the beat. I like my women like I like my
laptop
with no viruses. Yeah. See what I mean? Yeah.
That's great, man. I'm so happy you didn't dump. I think that's such a cool routine that you've done. I mean, it's first of all, it's just so random. So the whole hour can go on and on and on, and it just, you don't need almost it doesn't have to have like a story or an ending, which you can obviously, but it just is great.
Yeah. Well, what I do is I usually save it for the end, but lately it's become so popular that I'll kind of put it a little bit in the beginning, or like not the very beginning, but like, after I've been up there for about 8 or 9 minutes, and I'm like, okay, we'll come back to that, and then I'll go to like other stories and kind of blend it, but yeah, it's pretty cool. I don't know, man. I don't know if I could do it I don't know how long I could, because I tend to do it. It's very impactful in short doses, I think, or like
segments, right?
Segments, yeah, okay, like maybe 5, 6, 7 minutes. Because then after a while, the crowd can't think of anything either, and it's so funny because it's just one word, but like then they're just like
they're exhausted.
They're exhausted. Trust me.
You know what it
I've
is?
gone through
Darren, you're only catering to maybe half the audience at some point. I like my women like, so if you ever come to San Francisco, you might have to do I like my men like I like my men, and then target someone in the Castro and mix it all up. And then you're gonna make
yeah. Sometimes people say that to trip me up, and it really did used to stump me. I'd be like,
oh, so like they've said like my men.
They'll be like man, and I'd be like a nice person. Like I didn't really have anything funny. I would just be like
reliable, pays the bills.
Yeah. So now I say this. If they say this, and here's a little inside. If anybody goes, I like my women like I like my, and they go, man, I go, transitioning to a woman. That's so stupid.
That's great. That is great. That is great. All right, so you're known as the party starter among your friends or friend group? Are you always on around your friends? Are you kind of the guy that gets things going? You get it like do your buddies go, "Hey, Darren has to come or I'm not going out"?
I don't know, man. In fact, that's a kind of a bit I've done with my friends too, because I'm, you know, like if you like I told you earlier, I'm like, check out this Ray Charles song, you know, Country Roads. Like, so my comedy is like all crazy, right? Yeah. But then off stage, I'm more like a little bit more. I'm not gonna say serious, but I like to play chess.
Oh, really?
You know, I love to play chess. I love like listening to like old country music. I like watching, you know, whatever, like old TV shows on YouTube if I get a little time, or watching like some of these vloggers that go around the country. I like stuff like that. So the joke that I say is I go, you know what? I say I start the party. I don't necessarily attend the party. Like, I start it and you guys go ahead. I'll be back in the room playing chess.
Almost like a little bit introverted. You need to decompress a little bit where you can't
be a little bit. Like when I was younger, you know, just I'm sure like you were too. A lot of people when they're younger, they want to go out. Like I'd go to a new town, you know, I'd perform like Austin, Texas or somewhere. I'd be like, I want to see the city. And now I'm like, you know, like I'm cool. Maybe grab something to eat. Yeah. You guys go see the city. I'll check out in the day and tomorrow, you know, like I don't need to go to some loud nightclub where you can't even talk.
What,
you know?
Have you heard any funny things about, not Jeff Bezos will probably get us both canceled, but Lauren Sanchez in the inauguration with her, you know, I like my women like I like my bra.
Oh yeah, with Zuckerberg staring at her. Yeah. My God. Hey, here's a joke I do. Or I'll do the joke for you. I go, I have to admit to you, Simon, I am not Darren Carter, the party starter. I'm Jeff Bezos. Yeah, I got the Jeff Bezos. And on stage, I go, I'm Jeff Bezos. Then I say this, I go, Jeff Bezos is rich. I'm Jeff Bezos.
Bezos.
Yeah.
So you're saying you wouldn't pull Lauren Sanchez right next to you? She wouldn't mistaken you two guys.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. One time they posted a picture on New Year's, and I was like, wow, that people kept sending it to me because it kind of looked like we looked a lot alike that on that particular New Year's photo. He had the mirrored sunglasses, and he's like, you know, oh yeah, I think he was wearing a vest or something, and sometimes I used to wear a vest, but.
Were you Jeff Bezos for Halloween ever? Do you think you want to do that or what?
You know, I know once you shave your head, you're like I've gotten Vin Diesel family. I've gotten you know what, with the sunglasses I can what's his name, Pitbull, you know, from you know Pitbull,
the musician.
Yeah. I first got that once when I was wearing a suit, and I was performing at a party. I was wearing this suit, and this drunk lady's like, "You look like Pitbull."
What,
so I was like,
what did you tell her? Said you know, a little bit of Spanish or what? Come to me, mommy.
Yeah.
You said turn around. Let me see that culo.
Yeah. I got mattresses in LA. Remember that song about mattresses in LA? It's like, dude, you should have a whole bed, not just a mattress. Like,
I guess when you're at that level, you don't need a bed. You just get that.
Yeah, I need a mattress. I don't even have a frame or nothing.
Like
Diddy, have bed.
Like Diddy with his oil. He did, you know, he had a factory in there, is what I saw. Oh my God.
Yeah, I write jokes for a friend of mine. And so he does a bit about how he played the Britney Spears slot machine, and he goes, and you win the money, or dad comes down and takes the money from you.
Oh, jeez.
And I go, we should do one for P. Diddy. And so the joke that I wrote for him for P. Diddy is I go, it's a slot. Have you guys played the P. Diddy slot machine? How's it go? You go, yeah, oh yeah. You're like, you pull the handle. It's like baby oil lube. And I go, and that's just the handle.
The handle's all sticky. But
yeah. Another one real quick. Another one I wrote for him about P. Diddy, because remember P. Diddy was trying to get bail, right? And they were not. I go, boy, he probably wishes he had that baby oil now. He could slip out, you know, of the bars.
He would get right through. Man, they'd probably use the baby oil on him in there with Suge Knight. He's a career, Diddy. My God. I think the guy that won the Britney Spears slot machine is Kevin Federline.
Oh yeah,
he totally pulled the lever right way.
That's funny. Yeah, and I think he's from the Fresno Clovis area. I think he went to Clovis.
He did, huh?
It's funny.
You
Yeah.
know what it
Did you? Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Darren. Go ahead.
I was going to ask if you've ever been to Fresno Clovis or
Fresno probably a couple times, but not for like a good event. I grew up in the city in San Francisco, and I saw, there was no reason to leave San Francisco for me at that age. And
yeah,
I remember actually meeting my wife the first time. She lived in a nice neighborhood where I didn't even know existed 20 minutes outside. When I drove out, I was like, holy crap, people live like this, and that was an experience. But the weather was so drastic, SF's always cold.
Yeah.
And then 20, 30 minutes out, it's warm. But I remember wearing a Giants jacket, and I was sweating through that thing, so I didn't want to take it off. I was uncomfortable with pit stains. It was just a funny thing.
Yeah.
But you know what it reminds me of? The Britney Spears thing you said is kind of like that Dave Chappelle skit when he got Oprah pregnant. Do you ever see that skit where he's like, "Gotcha, bitch," and he's like, "I'm rich,"
yeah.
and then he's like in her house.
Yeah.
In her
Gotcha,
house.
bitch.
Yeah. He's like, "I'm rich, gotcha," and he's like, enjoying cucumbers on his eyes, and she calls him. It was the funniest thing. Oh my god. Let me ask you, stage fright. Talk to me about stage fright. I mean, is it natural to you? Was it something you had to kind of get over? Because you're in front of an audience and they're judgmental, and if you don't hear them laugh or something, or a joke doesn't hit.
It's stage fright is something I could remember experiencing it like in the beginning, like the very beginning, because like after a while you have other shows to compare it to, so you're like. So eventually you've done, like it just compounds itself where you're like, I've done 10,000 shows. Like, I know it's not me. It's like, it's the situation or where I'm at. So you don't take it, even if you're not doing well, you're like, you don't take it as personal because you're like, I know this stuff works. But in the beginning, you don't have anything to compare it to. And that's where it's like, And I did have stage fright. I remember my third time I did comedy, because the first time I did comedy, there was like nobody in the crowd. There was like 5 people. And that didn't really even count. I don't even count that. The second time, I don't remember being nervous, but the third time, excuse me, I was in a comedy contest. And so just the mere fact that it's a contest, that kind of it ups the ante. Yeah. And that's where I had stage fright. I remember that was going to be at Fresno State, and they had an on-campus bar, and it was called The Bucket. And I didn't even go to Fresno State. I went to Fresno City College. And so I was already a little bit nervous. Like, it's Fresno State, especially if you could put yourself in that mindset of being like 19 years old. Like, you're going to go to the big school or whatever, and then it's going to be at this place called The Bucket, and it's a contest. And that place, I think they had alcohol on campus. This is back then, like this is probably 88. Awesome. Yeah. So they're all like, like raw, like that kind of crowd. And I was like, I just remember all day, like just going over my notes. I have my little notes like this. I'm just going over my notes, and like just pacing, thinking about how I'm gonna, which what I was doing is I was rehearsing, and you're visualizing yourself like doing well. Like that's really what I found out later is what I was doing, and that makes you less nervous. But I got to be honest, when I was there and I saw the lineup and I knew it was coming up for me, I remember just having to use a restroom a lot. Like I'm nervous, like, and then the stage fright, but I'd also rehearsed a lot. So when I went out there, I did have stage fright, but when I got out there, it did go away. And especially when I got that first big, and my first bit was a bit about, it was basically like, I was going to go, I don't know if I remembered exactly, but it was something like, I was going to go, do you like to drink beer? I mean, really like to drink beer. I'm talking hard-hitting, heavy-working, sledgehammer, jackhammer, dirty fingernail, lunch pail, tobacco, chewing, cyber, saving, cussing, cursing, swearing, spitting, stomping, stunning, running, gutting, hooting, tooting, shooting, footing, whatever, roping, riding. I'm talking, and it was like this really long list. I'm talking about a beer for a real man, a man like, and then I would name like a couple people. Then I had like a misdirection punchline. And so I thought the laugh was going to get at the very end when I go, and it was going to be like a ta-da. However, when I go, do you like to drink beer? The crowd went, yeah. It kind of threw me, and I was like, the stage fright went away. Then I just played into it. I go, I mean, really? And they're like, yeah. And that was actually probably my strongest bit, because then after that, it kind of went downhill a little bit, but it still did okay. But it was like, I was like, yes, you know. And I think I came in like 4th. I didn't even win, but it was like, but that got me out there and like, okay, I can do this, man. You know, I mean, can perform
in front of a bigger audience. You know, it's also incredible. And I think competitions, no matter what the competition, truly brings out, and you learn so much from any competition, whether it's sports or whether it's comedy or, you know, anything. You really learn. I think you evolve and you see what worked for other people and so forth, right? I
think it's remaining calm. It's remaining calm in the storm, you know, like if it's comedy or sports. Or I talked to this, you know, for a while I was training in a boxing gym, and it was awesome because I would be, you know, hitting the bag right next to these, you know, sometimes professional fighters that are going to be fighting on television that weekend. It was pretty cool. And I remember this one guy, he got like the break of a lifetime. Like an opponent didn't make weight. So boom, they called the guy that I knew because they thought, okay, he can fill in, and you know, our champ will like, you know, beat him or whatever. However, the guy that they called at the last minute, he actually knocked down the champ in the 2nd round.
Oh wow!
And then nobody expected that. And then he went on, but he ended up not. I think they called it it was like a draw or whatever. Like he didn't beat the champ, but it was like whoa. And so I actually interviewed him on my podcast, and I said, what did you learn from that? What do you know about that? And he told me, he goes, you know, I knew that champion guy, he goes, I know he's an emotional fighter. He gets emotional. And I knew if I could like get him pissed off, he would just like, he would kind of throw some of his training out the window and think he wouldn't listen to his coach as much, and he would get emotional. And he goes, and when I hit him with that one punch, and he goes, that is when I knew, once he got knocked down and he got up again, he goes, I knew he was going to be emotional, you know. And now I don't think he had the skill to go on and beat the champ, but he knew. But when he said you got to remain calm, you know, don't get emotional, and I was like, oh, that works in boxing, it works in comedy, it probably works in relationships, probably works in everything, you know, I would imagine.
Yeah. No, I agree. Breathing, you know, especially with relationships, I would say remaining calm will go both ways. You know, has comedy, you know, comedy is interesting. You know, you've got different crowds in different cities. Obviously, the Fresno Bulldogs are a different crowd than the people in San Francisco, right? What's the toughest? Like, are Jews the hardest? Asian people? Is it black people? Is it white people? Liberal women? What is the toughest crowd? Or like, what?
You've named some tough crowds there. When I did a college, I performed one time. I did a college, and it was like the women's softball team. I was killing. I was doing great the whole show. Women's softball team. They were right in the middle of the room. There was, you know, like 15 women. And when I did I like my women like I like my, that's where I could tell, like the arms started getting folded, attitude started coming out, you know, because they're like 18, 19-year-old, you know, chicks. No,
someone should have yelled Subaru, because
Subaru, yeah, popular with this group. yeah. But you know what I did is I just made a left change. I did like 2 or 3, and I just moved on like it wasn't even a joke. You know, I just went on and went like, I go, oh, that reminds me, my wife. And I just went something else. I didn't even, you know, I said, let's just move on. So that was a little tough. Because it was, you know, that, and then college age, like I said, and it was that particular group. That was a little tough.
I feel like one time, college age now is a little different than college when you went, or I went to community college too, so I don't have that full college experience. But but it's like,
you know what? One time I performed in Mill Valley up at the Throckmorton Theater. Now the last time I did it went great, but the time before, not that it didn't go great, but when I said I like my women like I like my, and I think that crowd is like older, very educated,
rich,
a lot of money,
yeah.
rich. Yeah. So like their suggestions weren't normal suggestions that I'm used to hearing. They weren't like car, laptop, things I can actually know what they are. They were like naming like parts of the body and like medications and it was like, wow. Like
up in Mill Valley, they'd probably said trees and Prozac. And
yeah, exactly. But at least I know what a tree is. I know what Prozac is. But they were like, I swear they were naming like internal organs because they were probably like retired surgeons. And it was like, but that helped me because I learned at that show is where I learned, I go, guys, dumb it down.
You learned
and I go, I
anatomy.
don't know what you're talking about. Yeah.
My God.
So
I know that crowd. I know. Sometimes I'll get a cup of coffee around there. And if I say something funny to the barista, that's a different world, these baristas nowadays. But I'll say something and it doesn't register and I'll just I'll say thank you and tip. I have to tip because my joke went nowhere here,
Yeah.
So.
I remember that. I remember I was telling a buddy of mine this the other day about getting older. Our references. Not everybody knows these references because it used to be for the longest time the same people knew because there weren't that many TV channels. Everybody kind of watched the same thing. So I wrote this joke and I was like, I wonder if people still remember Johnny Carson, the Tonight Johnny Carson. And I was at this bagel shop and I was writing this. It was called Western Bagel. And I go, I wonder if this kid behind the counter knows who Johnny Carson is. And I go, excuse me. And I went up to him and I go, I said, do you know who Johnny Carson is? And he goes, I think he works here on Tuesdays. I was like, wow.
You're like, all right. They probably didn't even know Jay Leno at this point. I mean, Jesus.
I know. Damn,
crazy.
Dude, I know.
It's crazy. Jay Leno. Man.
Dude, I know. It's crazy. It's like, and it becomes very apparent like on your credits when people go, right before you walk up to the stage, they go, what would you like me to say about you? And, I actually sometimes don't even say the Tonight Show because I'm like, I look at the crowd, they don't care. It's like,
they go, is that TikTok? Is that a show on TikTok?
So that's what I say. I say he gets millions of views on Instagram. And I don't even know if that, but
registers.
I want them to, but I'm thinking, at least it's something they've heard of and they know, and maybe they'll look me up on Instagram.
Oh man, it's Instagram. Getting back to what you said earlier, I think it's such a viral tool for you because it's a constant revolving, replaying clip. Jay Leno sadly is a legend, but he will come and go, and the next thing comes up, and so forth. And people are now getting their entertainment from someone random. It's kind of crazy.
I know. I've been going back and listening to. I told you this earlier on the show. Like I've been listening to Frank Sinatra. And because I'm like, I've heard of Frank Sinatra. I know some of the songs. Let me just put on a playlist and kind of get familiar with these great artists that have had these awesome careers. And then you realize like, no wonder they were. You know what I mean? It's just like they had the best musicians, the best. And I just want to explore a little bit of the past, and also the current, what's happening. But man, there's so much great stuff out there that's already been made that I'm not even aware of.
You know what? That era, I wish I was born in that era where people were respectful and well put together and men were men in some ways, and, there was a understanding of just society, like helping the neighbor out. That was a big thing. But that mafia era was great. And they built Vegas and they built Tahoe.
Yeah.
Or, even that type of era. Let me ask you, if you could perform in front of anybody out there or a few people. I know you're Jeff Bezos, so maybe Lauren Sanchez, but, or Rocky, or who would you, Sylvester Stallone, who would you like, who's your dream audience?
Wow. Well, number one, it'd be an audience that is going to laugh and love me. That's the dream audience. Because if you put it on one person that's out there, I get too nervous. I think, are they laughing? And I remember one time Damon Wayans was in the audience, and I couldn't help the whole time I'm performing. I'm like, Damon is watching me, like because sometimes he would leave, and not watch comedians. And I remember him laughing at a joke, and it was like, yes, or I remember Henry Winkler, the Fonz, Henry Winkler. he was at one of my shows, and same thing. That was a big crowd, so I didn't know where he was, but I knew he was in the room. And I sometimes don't want to know that, because then I get too in my head. Like, would they think it's funny, or And I don't, I don't know if I have.
When you stare at the audience, do you stare at someone particularly? Like, are you one of the types that picks somebody out, or are you kind of looking at a blank just to not really get distracted? Do you know what I mean?
I pretty much look like Mark Zuckerberg staring at Lauren Sanchez. Like, whoa. I'm like, where's the biggest boobs? No.
Oh, man. Hey,
No.
Do you think his wife reamed him for that? Because she's an Asian lady. I don't think his wife's is as
Yeah.
I shouldn't say gifted, because I think it's implanted, but it's
it was a gift. Yeah, she got it from Amazon. Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime delivery.
Yeah. She's gifted twice. Maybe it was just like a quick moment, like.
Okay.
He made a big deal out of it.
I looked that way, and it reminded me of that Seinfeld clip where there's a woman in the bra.
Yeah, I would be like, "Oh, honey, I was about to sneeze, and I just happened to look down, and or something." I don't know.
I think he's in trouble. He's definitely doing stuff to delete all the Instagram posts at this point.
I know. No, but do I look at people? Here's the thing I've learned. I've learned to not focus on the people that are not laughing, that have a frown on their face, that have negative body language. I try not to focus on them. I mean, it's still natural, but you realize they might just be tired. They might be daydreaming about laundry or picking up the dry cleaners. Like I learned, don't take it personal. Do not take it personal. It's hard. It's something you have to really learn. And just some people react different than others. I remember I was in Cleveland, and there was a table of two black guys, two black ladies. The ladies were loving me. They were like, ah! And the black guys, they each had toothpicks, and they were just kind of like leaned back, like just looking at me. And in my mind, I'm like, these guys, but I already know, because I'm experienced enough to know that the ladies are laughing, the guys are, and after the show, they told me I was funny. And it's like, I think some people just express joy differently, and other people are like more chill. And I'm like, as long as I'm not getting heckled, we're good, man. And also my comedy, I don't really push those buttons to get, heckled. I'm pretty neutral, I guess you would say, like, that's just me. And maybe because I'm a chicken. I have no opinions.
You're not trying to get stabbed on stage. That's
yeah.
That's
crazy. I've seen stuff like that. I saw this one guy. There's a clip. I know the guy. His name is Johnny Mitchell, I think, and I think that's his name. He went to prison for like selling weed and stuff back in the day, and then now it's legal, so it's trippy for him. And he was at this place on Sunset Boulevard here in LA, and I think it's called the Rooftop, and it's kind of I want to say it's a little shadier, like, and people can get in there for free. And if you look it up, that's also the place that somebody pulled out a gun on Mike Tyson.
Oh my God, really?
And, yeah,
it's a death wish for both people.
Yeah. Mike talked him down, and it was all good. But it was like, I don't like that place really. I performed there once. I was like, I don't like this place, But this guy that I know that was in jail, and he's a tall white guy, and he's like, and then some guy in the audience was heckling him, and the tall white guy was winning the crowd over, and then that guy didn't like it, and then the guy in the audience goes, I never went to jail. And then the tall guy goes, oh yeah, probably because you're a snitch. And everyone was like, ooh. And then the guy jumped up on the stage, and next thing you know, there was some sort of like melee. And I was like, yeah, man, like,
that's
ooh.
Crazy. LA is an interesting place. I remember in the Bay Area during the pandemic, I couldn't get a haircut out here, so I flew to LA. I snuck into this
nice.
Armenian barbershop, which was boarded up and covered. It was a funny story. Armenians are just great people. They're funny. In near Glendale, I think it was, or it wasn't on Sunset. But it was an Armenian barbershop, and I look across the street, and I'm like, man, this marijuana dispensary is open, and everybody's just coming right in, no problem, and I have to sneak into a goddamn barbershop. Like, what the hell's going on,
That's
wild.
insane. And by the way, I got to give a shout out. My wife is Armenian, and my son he's half Armenian.
That is awesome. So how is that? So you lose every argument at home, pretty much.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Exactly. I'm like, okay, honey, okay. Yeah. One of the jokes I do is because we met in LA, but I'm from Fresno, and she was from a small town near Fresno. Her parents and actually her grandparents settled from Armenia like in the early 1900s. Okay. She was raised on a farm, and so the joke I say is I go, my wife's Armenian. I call her my little Farmenian.
What is she? Does she like that?
Yeah, she loves it, and she doesn't. When it comes to speaking Armenian, I think she knows probably like 10, 20 words. Because back then, like the parents would speak Armenian, and then because they had like a bunch of kids and they want to talk to each other, and but so in Glendale, so when our son was first born, I wrote all these great jokes about half Armenian and little baby. And in fact, we made a cartoon. If you guys check it out, my YouTube channel, Darren Carter on YouTube, Armenian baby cartoon. Go look it up. But I would be like, I go, man, what's our baby gonna look like? Like, is he gonna come out like with like orange chest hair and a polyester onesie, smoking a cigar with a unibrow? And I would take the microphone. Come on, bro, I'm hungry, bro. I want to stick hummus. Suda, amen pan sude. Ice honey man, amen pan sude. I want hookah, bro, hookah.
Hookah, they love hookah.
It would kill. I'd say this. I'd say, and here's how important words are with stand-up comedy. I'd say, because I'm talking about our little, she just gave him birth and the kid, and I'd go, get in your stroller, and he'd go, that's not the Mercedes. A lot of Armenians here drive like these white Mercedes, white BMWs. Yeah. And so I'd say, we live in Burbank, our baby lives in Glendale, and that would get a huge laugh because, all the Armenians in Glendale. However, I brought it back, and I was doing that bit about a year ago. And the part where I'd say we live in Burbank, he lives in Glendale, it stopped working. And I thought, what is it? And I realized, because I have to say we live in Burbank, our baby lives in Glendale, because it sounds like that's what's funny. A little baby is ridiculous on his own. But when you're saying your 17-year-old son lives in Glendale, it's like
I'm telling you, Armenian people are some of the funnest people, and they're some of the best people to have as friends because they're fun and wild. I mean, I remember going to a party and there's like this 8-year-old Armenian kid smoking a cigarette, and I was just in shock. I was like, "Where's your dad?" And he's like, "What's it to you?" Yeah. I'm like, "All right, I'm backing off, bro." Yeah. But because your wife's Armenian, you could now have a bit from Jeff Bezos to Jeff Bezanian or something.
That's funny. Have you ever heard of ponchik? You know what ponchik is? It's an Armenian dessert. It's like a deep fried donut. I haven't. Okay, so I did this Armenian fundraiser show, and they gave us these ponchiks. I think it's spelled Ponchik, ponchik. But the joke I did is I said, because it's kind of true. I go, where can I find ponchik? And then the voice came back, did you mean porn chick? I said, no, I need to find Armenian ponchik filled with Nutella. Did you mean Kim Kardashian? Yeah. That's funny you said that about. So during the pandemic, you had to get the haircut down here. So during the pandemic, we were splitting time between LA and staying on a farm up in near Fresno. And things were a lot looser in the Central Valley. It was pretty, man, you felt like this weight was lifted off of you. It's just, if you know what I mean? Like I'm not, I'm not that afraid of like all the stuff. Like I was just like, I'm over this, man. Let's, and I never got sick, knock on wood. I got a little sick later on, but it was like 2 or 3 days. It wasn't really, I do my push-ups daily. And I remember there was one day I couldn't do my push-ups. And then the next day I was like, I'll do 25, but
Darren, I'm so disappointed in you. I'm going to have to end the podcast. I thought you were 7 times boosted. I'm worried about it from the Zoom call.
Imagine I do the thing with the mask on. Okay, so here's great to
I still around here people still wear the mask. I'm just I guess I'm a chicken or don't want confrontation, but I want to ask them like, why are you still wearing it? Are you robbing somebody, or are you gonna plan to rob somebody?
No.
Like, what's happening?
No, you're right. It's or like they
You're outside.
now they might say it's because of bird flu or something, but yeah, but I'm like, yeah, I as a joke to myself, I say, oh, look, they got bird brain flu. Bird brain.
I love that.
Bird brain flu.
You know, now we could say these things, thank God. But like maybe like before January 20th, we'd be a little afraid. And you know, it's crazy. I don't know. I don't know why this all happened. It was a weird time.
Yeah.
You
it was
know
a
what?
weird.
There's
I was like,
two things for me that changed, and I realized that this is all crazy. Is one, we would travel to Florida, and I was like, "What the hell is this happy land place?" You know, I was like, people are like at the beach, they're going to restaurants. There's no requirement to show papers. I was like, "This is weird." We'd come back, I'm like, "I don't know if I want to be here. Let's go back to Florida." And then, you know, and then in jiu-jitsu class, I realized that I didn't take the shots, and I didn't get the COVID. And then a buddy of mine that I was rolling with, he was like on his third go round at this. I was like, bro, did you get like boosted?
Yeah.
And I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah. So many friends that are like that. They keep getting sick. And I'm like,
I don't know. All right. As we wrap up here,
let me ask you real quick, back to that topic, because I love that topic.
Please.
Were you living in San Francisco or like near there? Like
so we're near
during all this?
So we're just outside of it, but SF is wild, man. It's like the wild, wild west for crackheads, and
it's sad.
Yeah.
I remember when I was in sixth grade, we took a field trip from Fresno. This is what we would do. Fresno, we took a field trip to San Francisco. And we went to the Museum of is it Palace of Fine Arts?
Yeah, Palace of Fine Arts. Yep. There's a modern art too.
It was great, man. I just remember like it was in early December. I feel like Rain Man. He was like, yeah, December 5th. It was early December. And I was doing the countdown in my mind as a kid. I couldn't wait to go there. It was beautiful. You know, I mean, because it's like you said earlier, it's like night and day. And if you're in San Francisco, there's really no reason to, I mean, you had everything. It was like its own like world. I mean, the hills. And I just remember like seeing people fly kites because it was so windy and then the fog. And then I remember, I think they took us to Pier 39 also that same day. It was just beautiful. It was amazing. And I was thinking like now I don't think they're taking field trips to San Francisco.
No.
Right? I don't think so.
There's, you know, SF during the 2020, you know, I don't know, pandemic, whatever you want to call it. It turned into a ghost town downtown. And then on top of that, because there's no other people coming in, no one wants to go down there anymore. It became a place where the homeless or the drug users would be. So before they would blend in with the general public, and now it became they are the general public. And if you're walking there, you're kind of like, man, I don't know if this is safe. They may see, with me, it wouldn't be a problem. With you, they may mistake you for Jeff Bezos and kidnap you. You know, and it's like
no.
Yeah,
have to put a hat on or something. Maybe that's why they wear those masks. I'll be like, look, guys, I'm
not me. And it's sad. I think the BS of it all is they keep sugarcoating it, that it's not as bad as it was. And you know, I'd have people visit for business, and I'd say, hey, don't go down this street, don't go down that hill or up this hill. And even Dave Chappelle's like, there's nothing tender about the tenderloin. You know what I mean? And to scare my kids, maybe this is, I don't know if I should say this, but to scare my kids, I tell them, I'm like, hey, you guys want to drive down through that neighborhood again and roll down the windows? I'll show you if you don't listen and do drugs and all this. And it's like Scared Straight. Do you remember that show?
Yeah.
They're like, please don't do this.
No.
It's just
I did it. I performed last year in Alameda, and I landed in Oakland, and I was like, oh, because I'd been seeing that In-N-Out Burger on the news where they would rob, you know, people. There's an In-N-Out Burger near the airport, and they would break into cars and steal their luggage. And I guess they closed that In-N-Out Burger down, and they closed the Denny's down.
They did. They closed it because of crime. usually a restaurant gets closed because of rats and cockroaches or bad service or whatever. But it attracted too many people that got robbed. That says something. Oakland's like your Compton. I don't want to, it's not a place I would visit. And
no way. They got it. Hopefully they'll get tougher on crime. Remember when they were just stealing everything from the store and people I hated that stuff. And then they closed those Walgreens down and those drugstores.
Darren, I got to tell you, it's not just, first of all, the Walgreens in SF, they're all kind of boarded up. You got to like break the thieves are now professional lock pickers to get whatever they get. NyQuil or whatever it is, so they'll like break open these things. They don't care, but it leaks outside of San Francisco. So now there's like really by the airport, really nice towns like Burlingame, which is where we're near. And my wife and daughter were at a Sephora in Burlingame, and all of a sudden, within a second, it's like 10 people rush in right in front of my daughter, rob the whole thing, and the kids are obviously scared. The lucky thing is these people are so focused on grabbing like mascara for $20 that they haven't really thought who's in here that has something of value to rob. You know what I mean? So it's just insane. And I hope it changes. And they did pass a new law that says, now it's a felony to steal.
Good. Dude,
it's crazy.
We start out the podcast at the end. You know what, man? This Gavin Newsom is a jerk, man. He went to the French Laundry, and the rest of us were locked down, and he's having the time of his life. Okay.
You know what? You give me. We're gonna end the podcast with somebody like my women because it's like that curve that you said. We can't rag on. Did you see? Hey, by the way, Gavin Newsom was out here with the fires dancing around. Did you see that clip?
Dude.
He's like,
he's ridiculous. He starts wiggling.
Yeah.
He's like, we got some investors. It's like,
burned your goddamn house down and there was no water, but don't worry. I'm going to.
It's true, man. They had like, like those reservoirs are dry, like not even water in it. The fire hydrants were dry. I mean, it's not good, dude. That is not good. And I can only imagine if I lived up there, like, thank God I wasn't that successful to have a big mansion yet, so,
Dude,
but yeah, it's crazy.
Nuts. That's nuts. It's sad is what it is. And dancing around on the spot where someone lost their childhood memories is not a good thing, a good look,
dude,
for anybody.
I know. It's like, it's crazy. They saw it on the news. I saw Trump is coming to LA and he hasn't invited Gavin Newsom to talk to him. And Gavin Newsom and the mayor, what's her name? Karen Bass are going to go to the airport and just basically like
a bum rush,
like a stalking. Yeah, bum rush him. And I saw a meme today. It was like that 80s movie. It showed Gavin Newsom. They did it with AI where he's holding up a boombox, YMCA, come talk to me. Why?
Dude, that guy is. I don't know. I'm not a fan, and I just
either.
Politicians are. A good politician, I think, for me, as governors, is DeSantis. DeSantis said, "Hey, your family is your family. Yep. We don't have a place to tell you what to do." And he took a lot of flack during his time, but Florida boomed because of it. Now, some people may not like him because it boomed so much that it became almost unaffordable for them to live there because they were used to that norm. And all of a sudden, everybody's like, "Hey, I want freedom." You know what I mean? To come down here and so forth. But DeSantis really was a good governor. I think Newsom is just, rules for you, not for me. And then if something goes down, it's not my fault. And he even said it. They're like, "There's no water in the fire hydrants." Well, the local city's going to have to deal with that. I mean, it's like, dude, what
rules for thee and not for me. That's exactly right. I remember they were robbing these trains that were going through downtown LA. Like the train would stop and then these thieves would just get on there and start taking stuff. And I remember him on the news and they showed him on the railroad tracks and they showed like all these boxes on the ground. And he's like, "Who's in charge of this? who made this? And it's like, dude, you're in charge. You need to like, same thing with the fires. Like, we're going to get down to this. These are not, we're going to get down to it. Not now. We're not going to politicize this. It's like, not going to politicize it. You guys are trying to, they told you years ago to like do forest management, and have water. I mean, dude, what are you doing?
All he has
and
to say is, hey, if he is in the front of the camera and something happens, he says, hey, we need to do better. That's the little line you got to say as a politician, whether you're in Florida or here. Hey, we need to do better. I'm going to work with people to do better, that this never happens again, right? I'm not trying to be a politician, but that's the only thing you have to say. You don't need to say like 50 other things that don't make any sense, that don't add any value, and it gets people frustrated, and then do a dance, and like no one wants to know that you're going to, wiggle your way out of it. It's like, dude, that's
there was that TV show called Wife Swap.
Oh man, I've never watched it because I wasn't married at the time, but now I'm married. I'm more interested. I was just kidding.
Well, it's here's the thing. I was thinking when you said DeSantis, we should do governor swap. We should get Governor DeSantis for like 6 months, 8 months. Let's see. I'm telling you, I bet you like they'd be harder on crime. They'd get the water. They would do forest management. There would be like, I just feel like that guy would get stuff done in California that, by the way, I heard that they're going to reverse some of the locking all the stuff up at the drugstore, because they said that the sales have been down because people walk in, they get frustrated. They're just like, they just start buying stuff on Amazon.
I think Walgreens and CVS's have decided that to own a pharmacy near these streets or areas, particularly in the city or in these troubled areas, it's just not worth the liability, the risk, the lawsuit that comes after, or something. I think they're going to go. And it's sad because these people are now going to have to drive somewhere out. Listen, it's a mess. I don't know if I'll stick around for the DeSantis to come around. I might just have to go to DeSantis. and give him a hug or something and say, hey, I wish you were here. It's like,
let's go.
Let's go to Sunset.
You know what's funny? I did a show in Florida, and I went out there, and I was like, I don't know if I could live here, because it's weird, man. When you're walking around, like you see all these signs that say alligators, be careful, warning alligators. And I remember it was also like when it rained, like the raindrops are like this. It just is like
it pours.
Giant rain. And I wasn't even there during hurricane, so I was there like the time of the year that the weather was kind of good. It reminds you of California, but you just know that, there's they have seasons, like unlike California.
I contemplate that all the time. Could I live there or not? And I love California. I wish California changes, and I hope it does. And it's a beautiful place. I mean, you've mentioned your childhood. I had my childhood in San Francisco. Probably the best place to grow up. There's so much going on. There's comedy clubs. Everything's 15 minutes away. The food's great.
Yeah.
If you take the safety component and you make it better, I think it becomes a better city. But, the advantages to Florida are, one, taxes, two, you're only like a 6-7 hour flight from Europe. So now, and you're in a very nice airplane. So now if you love that European thing, you could fly there. It's not as a big planning thing. From Cali to there is like 14 hours, 15, 16. And then you could go to New York, and you got 2.5 hour, 3 hour flight to New York. And then you're in the midst of chaos again, And so I don't know, but Darren, I always ask our guests, if you could go back in time, and it could be during a show, it could be your childhood, whatever, what advice would you give yourself, and why? And you can't say buy Bitcoin.
That's good. Yeah. I would say I jotted down a lot of notes over the years, like almost like not a diary, or a journal, but like little things like that. But I would just say, do that a little bit more. That way you can really, especially if you're a creative type person, that way you can really draw on that stuff. And luckily now with social media and the Google photos and stuff, memories will pop up. I'm like, oh yeah, that photo, I remember that. And that can kind of take you to a place. And I'd say that the one thing I would do is that would be it. And a lot of things are things I've already done, is to take in the moment of, no matter what it is. And as you know, being a father, it's like, there was a moment where I was kind of wishing things would rush along. Like when our son was like, let's say, 5 months old, I'm like, I can't wait till he crawls and walks. And then I was like, I can't wait till and my wife was like, no, you got to enjoy every moment and every stage.
Great.
And I was like, and then there comes a point where you're like, yes, you do, because they go from 8 to 12 to 16. And it's just like, oh my gosh,
Yes.
I swear, man, I got my son, he's 17, like I told you, and he's got a deep voice, and we do daily push-ups. I see you exercise also, and I got him doing the push-ups. He's got me doing the push-ups, and I am, when I say I swear, I go, you know what, get over here, and I still pick him up. Because I don't ever want there to be. I mean, there probably will be a day where I can't lift him, I can't pick him up. I just want to keep doing that.
That's awesome,
with him.
man. That's awesome.
No, I can pick
work
him up,
out
and he can
together.
pick me up. Yeah,
That's like that's my goal. I have a son too. He's 2 years old, but I got to get him into things that get him into things that build his confidence and so forth, because kids nowadays are big bullies, and you never know. You got to defend yourself, and you got to do stuff with dad and teach him the old ways. So that's cool, man, that you have that. Now that he got his car, is it harder to keep him at home, or now that I would imagine he drives, or what?
He does drive. He got his driver's license. It's funny. A lot of the kids his age don't do that. They're used to taking Ubers or Lyft or waiting for someone to pick them up. But we trained him. We trained him to be very he has his to-do. He learned this part from his mom, like the to-do list. Like he makes a list of things to do on the next day, and he's really studious and
love that.
He's respectful, and he when he meets you, he'll be like, hello, sir. Like he's just, we want him to be like that. And also when he came back to the exercise, ever since he could walk, we used to go to this high school track and go for it. We'd walk around the track, and sometimes we'd let him be on his own. Okay, we see we're on a track, you're in a circle, you're not gonna, and we'd let him listen to a little music, and he started getting in his own world with the music. But I remember when he was around, let's say 10, one of the parents, like her children were a little overweight. She goes, I wish I could get my kids to walk with me. And my wife goes, he didn't have a choice. He did not, since he was a kid, and of course now he loves to run, and he's, he could run the mile. Dude, I don't know about you, but I was never that fast of a runner.
No, I hate running.
Yeah, he was able to run I timed him the other day. He ran the mile in under 6 minutes.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it. He did it 5 minutes, 49 seconds. But yeah, he's like just a go-getter, and if I do 100 push-ups, he'll do 101. It's like he wants to one-up me, It's like, it's a really cool relationship, and I hope you have that with your son. You're going to have that.
You're blessed. And I got to tell you, having an Armenian mom, that woman is like, she will do everything for him. I know that culture very well. That's a blessing, and he has no choice here, right?
Right. Yeah, there's no choice. It's like she loves him, but with the velvet glove, but an iron fist. I mean, she's like, Austin, do it now. Okay, but no, he does. And I sound like those dads are like, yeah, he's got straight A's and whatever, blah blah blah. But he does. I'll tell you one last thing. I'm going to brag about my son. It was in March. It's they have a thing called Pi Day, because pi is 3.14, and on March 14th it's 314. They told the kids, they said, if you guys can memorize, because it goes on to like infinity. They said, if you can memorize like 20 digits of pi, you can be in the running to throw a pie in your teacher's face, right? And on March 14th, they told them this. You have 2 weeks to prepare. So it's 3.14. 159, I forget what comes after that, 26, I don't know, something like that. Anyways, my son, the first day, he memorized 50 digits.
Oh, wow.
50 digits of pi. And then he went on to he broke the school record, and he memorized at one point 500 digits. But then the next year, some other kid memorized more. And then we looked it up, and there's some brainiac out in Harvard that memorized 10,000 digits. But
that's insane. But that's a very big success trait. If you can memorize, have that type of memory, you're really, there's a study I've read back in the day on it. You're there's a huge chance of him being more successful at things, which is great.
I hope so.
I think you're doing great, Darren. I think, I think the toughest, and I have friends around your age where their kids are, 17, 18, and the toughest thing they tell me is the communication barrier. Nowadays, the kids are a little bit different. Like you mentioned it earlier, a lot of kids are not driving anymore. Before it was a lot of kids don't know how to drive stick shift, and everybody went to auto. And now every auto's gone, and now it's drive me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's
we taught him cursive because we want him to still know how to do cursive, and he memorizes little bits of other languages and all that kind of stuff. So and like I said, with his music, playing bass, piano, he's got what they call perfect pitch. And so he could tell you, oh, that's a D minor or whatever, D flat, D F sharp or something. I'm not a musician, but and you hope that with all this, you want your best for your kids, that they can go out there. But you're right though, the confidence. And when he was really little, we were nervous that maybe he had ADD, because he wasn't very, he would like be excited about everything. And also nowadays the teachers, I don't know if you've had this problem yet, but they kind of want kids a lot of the kids are on medication, and they kind of want them to be, I think, because they want them just to sit there like in a crazy zone. If they're
zero them out.
Yeah, they're going to be like, your son is, whatever.
That.
So
I'm against that.
Me too.
Way against that. I think, listen, for some families it'll help. I get it. But I never, my advice, and I'm sure you feel the same way, is like, get multiple opinions. Don't listen to one doctor that's making profit off pushing stuff on you. It's a crazy game that they.
Can you imagine? And I don't want to go. Just for this one sentence. I don't want to keep going back to this, but you listen to that one doctor, that one expert. Believe in me, I'm the science. And then now that guy's pardoned. You're like, pardon from what?
Fauci. Oh my God! Don't get me started on that. Like, why would he need a pardon? And why would he? That's because it pardoning Fauci. When there's profit to be made, they're gonna make you. And when you're forced, and politicians were doing. Did you remember that they were doing like these French fries? Get your free French fries today if you get a shot. And then they had that weirdo Trudeau from Canada describe how a booster made him feel as if he took ecstasy or something. Do you remember that? I don't know if he's like, the shot was invigorating. Oh. He's like, it felt incredible. I'm like, what is this guy talking about? I
didn't even see that one. Dude, I saw the one, get the burger. I got a burger. I got a burger. And I'm like, when they're doing that carrot and the stick thing, like, why are they?
What are you doing?
I don't want that. And why are you leaving the marijuana shops open and the liquor stores open and closing down the fitness and the churches and the jujitsu gyms? Wow.
Yeah. Oh man,
but it's true though.
It's so insane. And Fauci, I hope something happens, because I think, listen, it's crazy. My sister, she took the vaccine. She took the Johnson & Johnson one back in the day. That one got banned after she took it, right? Because like they were like, oh shit, what is this cocktail mix we put in people? So, but she took it, and she was like, hey, I'm not feeling well. And she was talking about it many times over, and no one really paid attention to her. They thought she was like trying to get attention or whatever. And it turned out that they banned it later, and then there's a hotline for it, and the people on the hotline, like, there's like thousands and hundreds of thousands of people that are complaining about side effects, and they've suppressed it. And then Zuckerberg, even though he likes boobs, thank God, he was one of these people that was proactive in that. And then now he's kind of turning it around. And listen, we could talk about politics all day, and I rather he's going to ban us both. And the truth of the matter is,
I wanted to tell you one last thing about I was talking about, and I love what you just said. But with ADD and all that, and I remember we went to his pediatrician, the doctor, and he said, you know what? Get him in some sort of martial art, just to learn to focus. And we did. We put him in, and you, it sounds like you're into jiu-jitsu. And at that time, we put him in taekwondo, and it was great, because that's where they have to learn. They have to memorize. Back to memorization, the 𝐒𝐤𝐬𝐕 and the this and the that, and it got him focused. And he didn't, I remember him, like, it was hard for him to focus like the first week, and that they were very good with them because they're good with children. And I remember they would calm him down. They put him they have him count backwards, like 30, 29, 20, like they would, and it got him calm. And then he learned, and now it's great. Like, if any,
does he still do
I
it?
recommend it. He did it until the pandemic, because then that's where they wanted them to train with masks.
Yeah, that was weird.
Because it's a school, you got to wear masks, and it was
I've done that.
And then,
I've trained with masks, and I never wore them, but the guys that were wearing them, they would come down and like, bro, do you want to put it up? Like, we're breathing on each other like this at this point. What's the point of this stupid thing? It's just so funny.
Exactly.
But it helped out a lot.
Yeah, it helped. It helped out a lot. He got his, he got his black belt and all that. Good. Like, he did the different belts, and I think that definitely helped a lot. And it transfers over to other things in life,
Have him do jiu-jitsu. Like, have him try it out. He's young. I started late. I started at 37, but I've done other things before that. But jiu-jitsu is great because it creates a community, camaraderie, and then also it's not as impactful. You don't get hit. So I always tell everybody that on the podcast or whatever, I'm not a pro at it, but for men, even my age, we sweat. For kids, fights go to the ground a lot, and it helps to be calm, because that kind of goes back to what you were saying with the audience. You just, like, if I was to get in the fight, or anyone that's trained, I think they would be calm and know the next move that they're doing, or even tackle a situation. Another thing is, it's a big pressure test, and Taekwondo is as well. Is like, you're under a lot of stress in I'll say jiu-jitsu or any type of martial art. And it's such a pressure test that you learn how to deal with pressure. And that goes into comedy as well. That's why I asked you, how do you decompress, or how do you deal with it? You know how to deal with it. So get them into it. I think it's not too late. And in Glendale, there's a popular school there. And then around your areas, there are, like, Glendale has Gracie Barra. And I think Mario Lopez, I know you know who that is. He trains there.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And they're respectful, and he's going to get his ass kicked in the first like 6 months, but after that, good luck. If you upset him,
I know.
You're gonna
I'll be tapping out, son. Dude, I always hear these stories, like, because I listen to a lot of the, like, Joe Rogan and these different podcasts, and they talk about, you could be big and strong, but then some guy can, like, do the moves on you, and you're like it's a trip,
It's if you're big and skilled as well, and you go up against an opponent that's also skilled, it's a big advantage in jiu-jitsu. People will say it's not, or whatever. And one of our coaches is a small guy, but he wraps people up. But at the end of the day, if you're on the street and you got a big guy versus a skilled small guy, the big guy's in trouble. Like, the small guy's going to get him. And in like boxing, like fighting, there's weight divisions. So, if you take like a John Jones against Islam Makhachev, Jones is going to kill him because he's just got like 100 pounds of power on him. But if you in the street, and a lot of people don't know how to fight, I think it's such a good thing for kids. I've seen young kids around your son's age in our place, and they're just very respectful. They feel confident. You could tell they're confident. They're not like, I don't know, and I think it's great. Yeah. Try it out. Try a class. Usually they're like a couple weeks are free. And see if he likes it, and just give him that. If he ever needs to talk, he could call me or whatever, and I'll guide him in that. And then yourself, it's never too late, Darren. I'm telling you, there are guys that are in our class that are like 55s and 60s, some of them, and they slap me up. You know what I mean? They're still going. It's really funny. So
it's funny, even because I try to stay physically fit, but then I definitely see it diminish. Like when like, let me ask you a question. Here's one. Yeah. Do you do clapping push-ups? Have you done them recently? Clapping push-ups? I
have man makers, which are like clapping push-ups, and also
what are man makers?
You're basically you're jumping, doing a push-up, then you're coming down. So you're like there's another term for it, but I forget it and it slipped my mind. It's like burpees. It's burpees with a push-up as well. And then, so you're kind of going down, you're doing a burpee, you're jumping up. Those are tough, right? And it's a full body workout. But clapping push-ups are good. My thing is, you know what if you really want to know about like my routine, and I have a friend that's 55 that I speak to regularly. And after our routines, like we've come down to the fact that you don't need to be in the gym for an hour a day or two or anything like that unless you're trying to get away from something. I go 20 minutes. So my thing is, I call it the vacation workout. It sounds funny, and your audience may like it, or this audience may like it. For me, is when I would go on vacation, I don't like to spend my whole day in the gym, but I want to work out to start the day right. So I would say 20 minutes, sometimes even 15 to 20 minutes is the vacation workout. You don't stop. You go from machine to machine. You do your push-ups, you do your burpees, you clap, you do whatever you want to do. You don't stop, and you set a timer. And if you do that for like 5 days straight in a vacation or even at home, your body's going to get so tight and strong. And, you know, a lot of people tend to knock a workout out. Oh, I don't have time for it or whatever. I can't be here for an hour. Hey, just get in the gym. You know, it's like reading a page a day in a book. You're going to maybe read more. And I like a 15-minute workout. Yesterday, actually, I had to kill some time. I went to 𝐒𝐤𝐴𝐴. I have a membership there through my credit card. And I saw people standing around and they're kind of doing things and so forth. And I go in and I do 15, 20-minute workout nonstop, and that's it. And I find it to be more doable than these long gym sessions, you know?
That's smart. I'm going to try that because I stopped going to the boxing gym, and now I just train at like I go to there's Griffith Park, Runyon Canyon, like these different canyons, and I do a lot of hiking, and then I got the kettlebells at home and all that. But I remember what kind of got me away from the boxing gym was the travel time. Like 30 minutes to get there, then you're looking for parking, then you're exercising, then you're hanging out with people. I'm like, damn, this is stupid. Like I'm spending 4 hours like leaving home, traveling, and I'm like, this is not.
I agree 1,000%.
Right? There comes a point. Yeah.
With the kids, it's the same thing. For me, you know what I started doing is jiu-jitsu early morning. So, for example, on Saturdays, is days I can go now, I'm there early just to knock it out of the way. Sometimes even at 7 a.m. the class will start. I haven't done the 7 a.m. in a while because of the baby, but you got to knock it out. And first thing in the morning, and listen, a good body is a good mind, and you're funnier, you're happier, and your wife appreciates it. You know, you don't want to be, you know, the guy that doesn't perform everywhere.
But I asked about the clap push-ups because my son last year he was doing like 100 push-ups on the daily. You know, except a couple times he'd miss, and then he'd try to make up for by doing 200. This year he goes, he's trying to make it a little bit harder, so he's doing a combination of like knuckle push-ups and then like the clap push-ups. And I was like, oh wow, I haven't thought about clap push-ups in years. So he pushes, I did and claps. Yeah, you push up and you're like,
That's
I was surprised. Like the first time I only did I probably did about 7. And then today, or not today, but yesterday, I was able to break out like 10 or 11. I'm like, but I remember when I was a teenager, I didn't even think about it. You're just like boing, boing. But as I got older, you get heavier, and I've gotten heavier.
But you know what? I bet if you keep doing it, you're going to hit 20, 25 and
I can't wait.
It's just it's a matter of consistency. And even I hate, you mentioned running. I hate running myself. I don't know what it is. Like I can do 5 rounds of jiu-jitsu, rolling, and I don't know if you've ever wrestled someone for 5 minutes, or even up to 10 minutes, depending on like which instructor. It's exhausting.
I was on the wrestling team years ago, but yeah.
It's exhausting. It's like it's not easy. But running I couldn't do. And then I made it a goal. I said, hey, I'm going to run a mile in 6 minutes. This was like years back, maybe, I don't know, like 8 years. And after 2 weeks, Darren, you could run a mile in 6 minutes. If you like set a goal for
really?
Your body adapts, man. It's like, It's like Mel Gibson said on the Joe Rogan podcast. He naturally feels like the body can adapt to any disease, anything out that's thrown at you. And I think, hell, if you want to do a 6-minute mile, that's a goal. You're gonna do it. You know.
Oh.
Yep.
I should build up to that. Actually, before the fire, so it'll be about 2 weeks. I was like, you know what? Let me just see if I could run a mile, because I don't really run. I do a lot of hiking, but I don't really run. So I went to the track because they have that spongy material. And by the way, let me preface it. I had twisted an ankle like 2 months ago. And so I'm still, I'm recovered, but I do feel that twisted ankle thing flare up a little bit. But I just wanted to see if I could run a mile. And it felt good to that was my goal. My goal was to do this without stopping. And I think eventually what I want to do is, like you said, I want to time it. And then can I lower my time on the mile? And I don't know, man. That'd be crazy to go.
I think you could do it. I guarantee you, if you did 2 weeks straight of running, the first week's gonna suck. And but if you did 2 weeks straight, you could really push it. And the same thing with the push-ups. I think that guy that I told you is 55. He does. I think his set is 100 push-ups a day as well, but he does them in increments of like 25. Listen, in places like prisons and so forth, they do the clap push-ups. They'll bring the knee up to the stomach to also work the abs. So they'll do the push-up and then they'll switch with the knees. And there's a couple people on Instagram I think I follow that only do body workouts. So that's how they don't need the weights. Maybe they'll have like a couple 5-pounders or whatever, but they're just doing body workouts.
Do you follow that guy, or do you watch that guy? Body by Mark.
I think I've seen him, but I don't know if I follow him.
He's behind the camera, but he walks up to people that are like really in shape, and he asks them what their workouts are, what their nutrition is. They take supplements. Pretty interesting. And then there's another guy I check out, Central Park Joe, where he works out in New York City in Central Park, and he just picks up rocks and pull-ups, and it's pretty interesting. And then lastly, I was like, I got to tell you about this there's a vlogger. Have you ever seen on YouTube Peter Santanello, the bald guy with the t-shirts? He's great. He goes all around the country, but he went to San Francisco and did a whole vlog about San Francisco. It's really interesting. And then he did Northern California, like Humboldt and stuff. And those views, they get like millions of views on his YouTube.
I don't know how these guys do it. They, travel through people is just such a cool thing. And it's like YouTube travel is what it's called. It's like you could experience something that in that moment that your brain wants. And but here's the thing that's going good for you. You do look like Jeff Bezos. And ever since Jeff Bezos married or fiancéed up Lauren Sanchez, this guy, you see how improved he is? He's also like, hey, my life has gotten a lot better. So it's like you've got the Jeff Bezos thing going here, Darren. You're gonna
man. Look at this. Life is good. Life is good.
I love it. So let me tell you, you're gonna give me as we wrap up. You're gonna give me I like my women like I got like a couple for you going here.
Okay. Let's do it, man. I'm going to go full blast. I'm going to get my flashlight.
Do it. Go absolutely. That's going to be awesome.
All right, here we go. Let's go. Here we go. That's right, ladies. I'm Darren. You could call me Darren. Darren, love me like a leprechaun, sweeter than a bomb. Bang you like a tom-tom. Then I'm gone. I like my women like I like my, give me a word. Here we go.
Lauren Sanchez.
I like my women like I like my Lauren Sanchez with some implants. I have no idea.
Let's do it.
I like my women like I like my
burritos.
From Mexico, making me go, cha! And a little bit spicy. I like my women like I like my
butter
spread all over my meat. I don't know. Last one, then we gotta go. I'm a women like I like my
taxes.
Take it away, Snoop Dogg. Oh, well, yeah, what's cracking? Ooh, it's the Digo Double G, the big sweet dog, big Snoop Dogg. I like my women like I like my taxes. Every April getting done with some extensions.
Darren, man, you've been great. Thank you so much for coming on the Ideal Hour. We're going to link all your info below. I'm going to check out the Ray Charles version of Country Roads after this. And then anything you ever need, let me know. We'll link your son below. We'll link you below. Guys, check out Darren Carter on Instagram. It's a great time. It's a great distraction as well. Lighten up your day because he has some really funny bits. And, keep it going, Darren. I think I'm going to be checking back on you for a 6-minute mile. Thank
you.
Yeah. And,
I had a blast on your show, and I'll come back anytime. Thank you so much.
I truly appreciate it. You're welcome anytime, by the way, and wish you the best of luck. And if you're around the Bay Area, let us know so that we could hype it up and promote it, and also I could attend and laugh my ass off. That's the goal.
Yeah. Thank you, Simon. Have a great day, you guys, and thanks for having me. It's been a real treat. All right.